All right, let's bring out. They're so wonderful too. Please help me welcome SOFI Tukkер. Come on. I gotta say, the swag level in this room, I've done a lot of these, but some of the outfits, do you see the purple hats over there? Like, the energy in here is really good, so thank you. It doesn't feel like a Wednesday, it feels like an actual weekend. So thank you very much. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I am
happy to be here.
Earlier on, you looked at my coat and you're like, are you a doctor? But you didn't realize I had Jason Momoa on the back of my jacket.
Yeah, but there's many kinds of doctors.
That's true. I'd like to be his doctor.
What is the Jason Momoa doctor?
I don't know, but we have ass doctors on stage with us, so.
Do you? We'll get into that in a little bit. I'm a SOFI Tukkер nerd since like day one, SOFI Tukkер, and also when I walked up and I saw the Coachella prop, I was like, I saw that at Coachella. She climbs that, you guys.
Oh, that, yeah.
She climbs that.
Yes, I do.
So they're currently doing their album cycle for Bread, which is awesome. Points for anybody who can tell me the acronym for Bread. Go. You've done your homework, I see. I like it.
They know.
So when artists are doing their album cycle, they get interviewed ad nauseum, and they have to tell their story over and over and over. So I don't want to make them go through that. So I'm going to tell your story a little bit, right? Just so they get to know the basics. You guys interject if you have to, and then we'll get to the main points. We'll start with SOFI. SOFI was born in Germany. She's hung out in places like Canada, Atlanta, Italy, eventually moved to Brazil. When did you decide that music was your thing?
I mean, I feel like music has always been my thing, just sometimes more in private. But I've been writing music since I was a kid, like since early middle school.
Do you remember what the first song you wrote was?
Yes,
What
it
was
was. It was actually a book report. True to form.
So true.
It was
to
a
form.
book report.
She
and
probably gave a teacher the apple with the book report.
Oh, is she a nerd?
Nerd.
Oh,
Nerd.
Beyond,
Okay.
beyond. Yeah, it was for Things Fall Apart was the book, and the song was Fire and Rain, James Taylor. But I like rewrote the lyrics. So instead of being like, I've seen fire and I've seen rain, I was like, a conquo, met his brother, or like, yeah. So I just like rewrote lyrics, and I was like, whoa, that's how you write songs, is you can like rewrite lyrics of pre-existing melodies. And then I figured out that you could change the melody, which got me eventually to songwriting.
Okay, so then we move on over to Tucker, who's from Massachusetts, Division I ball player, eventually captain, leader, badass, discipline. Then there was an injury. Right?
Yeah. It was like a sickness. I ended up getting mono, and it didn't go away. No, I'm not kidding.
I'm not laughing
You
at you.
fucking laughing at mono? What the hell is that?
I thought you like blew out your knee or something.
No, it was weird though, because I thought, it'd take a couple weeks, whatever. I made out with the wrong person, take a couple weeks, I'd be fine.
As one does.
And then it didn't get better, and I was like sick and nauseous and couldn't get out of bed for like 7 months. And I went to doctors like all over the place. They didn't know what was wrong with me.
You didn't ask one of your ass doctors that you were telling me about?
I didn't know that if I had just thrown my ass, I would have been fine.
Now you know.
But in that time, I wanted to be productive and didn't really have the energy to get out of bed. So I just watched YouTube tutorials and figured out how to produce music.
So then they both ended up at Brown University, which is where the faded...
Well, that's why this happened.
This is the...
I was at
that's
the
what happened.
end of... I was playing basketball at Brown, so it wasn't until my senior year that I started making music.
That's where they met, but they met at an art gallery. Am I correct? Okay, tell me about the faded meeting.
The
Who wants to
faded
go?
meeting. I can...
Go for
Either
it.
of us could definitely do this one.
Go for it.
There was a student-led art show that they asked me to come DJ at, like the after party. And I went a little early, and I saw SOFI performing with a jazz trio, and she was singing Brazilian, Portuguese, bossa nova music, and I had never really heard anything like that, just a basketball player from Boston.
Division I with mono.
And it was... This was post mono.
7-month mono is like a thing.
This was like a year after that, yeah. But I was still struggling with like inflammation, and they called it chronic fatigue syndrome, but that's just a word when they don't know what's wrong with you. And I was getting really into music, playing all the house parties, and I saw what Sophie was doing, and I was like, man, that's really beautiful, but it's really slow. And like, it's not my thing, but like, if you could mix that with what I'm trying to make, it might be an interesting, fun thing.
Were you open to it right away?
Kind of, yeah. He was like, hey, I'm going to bring up a drum track, just like keep up. And I was like, okay. And I just like was playing. And then I was like, this is cool. And then he was like, let's do a recording of it tomorrow. And I was like, okay. And then we just everything was just like really organic. Like we barely even knew each other, but we just like got to business. Not in that way.
Not the bound bound, not the mono again business.
Not in that way.
No.
We just like made music. And like we weren't even friends for a long time. It just worked really well.
Well, let's
not like that.
The plot thickens.
What did I say?
What did she miss?
They were just laughing at like we weren't friends. They were like, oh.
Oh, you guys need to take that off the table. I mean, we'll get to that part. Don't worry, I got you.
There's not even a table to take it off.
No, I know, but I have a point. What I'm saying, Tucker, is I have a point to make, and you'll appreciate it. Trust me. But we'll get there.
Okay, fine.
I want to get to the EP. Anyways, let's fast forward to the EP when Drinky came out. I remember where I was when I heard Drinky for the first time. I had just done I was trying to get global entry, and I was in a mini mall parking lot, and my friend was going to the Summer Games in Rio, and my algorithm was like on point and sent me Drinky, and I'm in my car, and my body started moving, and I started speaking Portuguese, which I don't. But that's how powerful that song, just kind of like, I don't know, something happens. And so I sent it to my friend, and then he sent it, and I was like, these people are fucking fantastic. So tell me about the success that Drinky brought and how that tasted when it first happened.
Well, I was looking for a job, like half-heartedly, hoping that I wouldn't have to take a job. And so when Drinky worked, like basically it got an Apple commercial, and that was the first thing that we ever got, and it was our first song we had ever made together.
And it was only released on SoundCloud, so like it was out, but it wasn't, it wasn't even on like radios or streaming platforms or anything at all.
You had to be like plugged. You had to be one of those people like explored and looked for music and had different like kind of platforms, and then it eventually Drinky found you. You didn't find it; it finds you.
Yeah. So basically, Drinky finding people and having some success is what allowed me to pay rent and like stop looking for another job and just put all of my energy into SOFI TUKKER.
And that's when you knew too.
Yeah, I've been convincing Sophie to be in a band with me for, 8 months prior to that, probably, right? Well, we were still at Brown.
But you didn't convince her because she was still half-heartedly looking for a job-ish.
Well, no, she was just living on couches, and it was,
Yeah.
That builds character.
Yeah.
It really does. Okay, so after that, then I just remember it kind of like skyrocketing from there, and it was Best Friend and then Purple Hats. Let's get to Bread, which is why we're here, which is amazing. Have you guys heard it yet? Yeah! Wait, what's the acronym again? Because I know you enjoy this.
Be really energetic and dance!
Okay, I have notes on Bread, but what do you want to... Each of your albums is something different. So tell me about where this one came from, and how do you feel about it, and how would you describe it?
I would say this one came from the whole 8 or 9 years of growth and us figuring out who we are, what we want to say, what we want to sound like. I think we intentionally really thought about this when we were making this album and when we were putting it together, and we wanted to really go back to what was SOFI TUKKER, what could only SOFI TUKKER make. And the way we think about that is really half of my brain, half of Sophie's brain. And so we went back and looked at songs like Drinky and looked at the Soft Animals EP. And we were like, what was so special about this? And, how can we make sure we keep that specialness when we are still pushing forward and trying to like make new things. And I really think we just made the best music we've made. It feels really, really good. I feel really proud of it. There's nothing I would change about it. I'm
It's
really
excellent.
happy.
How do you feel, Soph?
I feel the same way. I think it's our best music yet. And the other thing that's really cool about it is that it is very Brazil. Mm-hmm. And when we started the band, I had basically wanted to go back to Brazil and move there. And I had a fellowship to go there, and Tucker convinced me to join the band instead. And I was so in love with the country, and I just really wanted to live there and spend time there and make music there and just feel inspired. And it really wasn't until the making of Bread that we really went back for a significant period of time. So I feel like it was like Tucker's promise to me, and I was like a little bit of a homecoming, but I just felt like it wasn't that I was pulling from inspiration from 8 years ago. I was actually back in Brazil. We spent months there, during the making of the album. And so it was just, you can hear it in the album. There's a lot of Brazil.
Yes.
And it just felt really good to be back, in the language, like as present day Sophie, inspired by that place rather than just sort of memories from long ago when I lived there.
The Brazilian culture, are any of you close to it or familiar with it at all? It's very intoxicating. It's like a very sexy culture, and it's very worldly. When did you fell in love with the Brazilian culture first, but when did she kind of rope you into it?
I mean, it's felt like almost a third member of the band for a long time. Yeah. So I've always had a real fondness and love for it. But I would say 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, we went to Carnival for the first time in Rio.
Oh, isn't it fun?
And,
that place.
And I also think that was where a lot of the inspiration for this album really started. Like, we had a couple things in the works before that, but we didn't know they would end up being part of an album. But I think when we went to the samba parade and ended up at like a baile funk party at like 7 a.m, and my mind was just blown. And it's interesting because it's not even Sophie's favorite type of music from Brazil. She kind of, goes through the more classic traditional jazz and bossa nova stuff, and that never really like talked to me as much. But when I got in there and heard this like funk set, I was just like, I get it. I'm obsessed. This is the best thing ever. And it definitely made its way into this album.
And the rest is history. So the first song that stood out for me was Throw Some Ass, for obvious reasons. Because you can't, like, with a title like that, you expect something like, to the window, to the wall. How does the rest of it go? While the sweat runs down. That's right, your balls.
Well, that would have been okay. If we had one of those, that would have been fine too.
But it's got such...
Like
it's
the biggest song ever.
It really is. It's Throw Some Ass. And even saying it is funny, but it's such a melodically elegant song. Like, when she's like, turn around and make it clap, you're like, okay, I'll do that. It's like so polite. So that's the first song that sticks out. Do you want to say anything about it? It's self-explanatory, but...
Yeah, we had so much fun making it. Like, we were in the studio, and at the time, basically, I had all this horrible back pain, and very long story short, I felt like when I was doing this choreography that actually Lucas Hive is here tonight, choreographer, was teaching me how to joga bunda. I felt like I wasn't focusing on my pain anymore, and suddenly like my back pain was better. So I was like, I gotta tell the secret to the world and write a song about it. Yeah. And then when we were in the studio, it was just so funny.
It's one of my it possibly is my favorite. And then the other one that stands out to me is, I hope I say this right, Cafuné.
Cafuné.
Cafuné has this artist. Have you ever heard of Channel 3? Channel 3. That man's voice is so sexy. It's like it makes you want to lick sweat off a sexy stranger's body. I'm not kidding. Like that man should be studied. That song is amazing. Can you tell me anything about that?
Yeah,
he's the coolest.
So basically, actually, when we were in Rio, I was hanging out with the poet who wrote Drinky. And Chacal, and my Portuguese professor from Brown. And I was lying in her lap, and she was doing cafuné in my hair. And cafuné is like one of these magical Portuguese words that can't really be translated, which is just, putting your fingers like gently through someone's hair in a loving way. And I was like, cafuné is just my favorite word, and it's my favorite thing ever. And so the poet was like, noted, okay. And so he wrote a poem, and then he sent it to me. He was like, I was inspired by that moment on the couch with Patricia, so here's a poem. I was like, great. So we made Cafuné, and then we were like, it's missing something. Then we were watching Channel Trace perform. We were like, that's what it's missing.
That guy.
And it just
That
came
guy.
together just like so naturally.
And then Wolf, which I read one of you said was the most Sophie Tukker song. It kind of embodies everything that you are. Is that true? Because you led with it.
Yeah, I think it definitely, there's a big case for it. I think it has a recognizable guitar riff that's like a big lead. It has my sort of like low but also sort of comedy, vocals. It has Sophie singing in 4 languages. It has our friend Kalo from Nigeria, who's an amazing artist. It kind of has all the aspects of like, there's no genre for that song at all, I think. And I think a lot of the songs on this album kind of feel that way. And I think that in a certain way is our genre.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I actually agree. This record is amazing. And what I was going to say earlier about the table that you didn't want me to put anything on, some of the best relationships in the world, especially man and woman, are platonic. Most of my best friends are male. One of them is in this room. And every
Where's he
time Sam, where are you? He's in here. So there he is. He's right there. He's right behind you. Hi.
Hi, Sam.
Every time we've been best friends for 21 years, and every time I post a picture, everybody's like, "You're gonna end up together." I'm like, "Bitch, no, we're not. Like, we're literally best friends." But what I'm saying is, like,
He's like,
they have to. Sometimes they have to field those questions, and it's just two people that
we have a
work
song for that too. It's called Hey
really
Homie.
well together. I'm gonna end it with this moment that I saw. Like, it's a clip of you that's going around on the internet, and it lives rent free in my mind. And I'm gonna say it with no context, and then we're gonna end the interview and we're gonna dance. Is there a child in here? I mean, what? Are you sure? Are you sure? Okay. No. Okay.
What am I doing on the internet?
There's just a video of Sophie that somebody remixed. I guess they were doing an interview, and all she says is carbs and dick. And that's it. And somebody remixed it, and Sophie, I think about it every time I see
really?
it.
I've never seen that.
You haven't? You were part of it.
I was at the interview when she said carbs and dick.
The remix.
But I didn't remix. I never heard the remix.
I'm gonna send it to you when you guys get off stage. But now every time I see a piece of bread, I think of Sophie and I think of carbs and dick. And I'm gonna leave it. I think I'm gonna leave it on that note. And now we are gonna dance. Are you guys ready?